So let me jump to Vico Office. And as I said earlier, this is a single user interface. It's a full construction scope, so we have all of the different modules within the same user interface. It's essentially a dynamic way of viewing information and being able to only see what you need to see for that workflow that you're actually working on at that point in time. So in the left-hand side, we have different workflow panels, and we can choose what we see for the progression of this data. For example, if we were going to use Cost Planner, we could see the information from the project, managing the models, taking them off, and then using the cost plan, and then reporting on that information. Pretty simple workflow, and so on and so on. The ribbon at the top is dynamically adjusted so that it will be relevant to the view set that you have defined in the center. And we can have many different projects in this one database. As you can see here, we have a tower project and we have a lab project that we can open and view, and we can list all of the information for many projects for our pre-construction and construction teams on a site, on a server, or potentially on a file-based system as well, where the server is represented on your desktop. There's a help menu for you to run through all of the setup and understanding exactly what these each of the modules do and how we do, for example, the Model Manager UI, what happens in here, and so on, what all of the buttons and everything does. So there's a very comprehensive help system. For us, we're going to take a look at the lab building project, and for that we will then open the project. So here we can click to open this project, and you'll see that it turns green, the dot turns green to say that that model is open. We can then, as I mentioned here in the panel, we can then set up whatever views we like to see of this data. So I'm going to set up a side-by-side view so that on the left-hand side we're going to have the Model Manager. So I select the Model Manager, and on the right-hand side I'm going to select the 3D view. So let me just make a bit more space for the 3D view, and then on the right-hand side we're going to choose the 3D view and have a look at what models we have in our project. So the tools down the bottom here are our navigation tools. I can click on the orbit and view and drag and rotate and understand a bit more about the building. I'm going to just try and move that palette there, and then we'll set up and see which projects we've got in here at the moment. So let's take a look here and see in the filtering where we have the substructure model. So if we filter just for showing the substructure model, we can see that this is coming actually from ArchiCAD. Then if we add the structure, then we can see the structure, and at each point in time we can obviously rotate and have a look and take cross sections, for example. If we take a dynamic cross section of the information, and then let's add the external and internal architecture, and let's add the site, and then let's add the mechanical as well, and there we go. So we can see now, let's go to the orbit command, and we can see lots of MEP on the roof. This was the model that I showed you earlier, so it should be familiar to you. It's a laboratory, so there's quite a significant amount of MEP in the penthouse, where we have to make sure that this is all coordinated. So as I was saying, in the bottom we've got no issues, and we can use the Constructability Manager to detect these issues. So the detection settings that we click, we can compare many different things. So we could compare, and so we're delving now into constructability and detecting clashes that are in this building model or model set that we have received and that we have added to ourselves. We can add comparison rules between certain layers between the models, or we could add certain elements. So we could say, For example, in this example, we're choosing the walls and the rectangular duct of a certain system, and we can save this as a type of analysis, and when we hit the activate and detect clashes, it will then run the analysis, and hopefully this will be pretty quick to run. It runs the analysis, it finds the clashes, and then it stores them in the database, and it then shows them up in this list at the bottom. So we can see a list of maybe 10 or so issues that we found, and one thing I like to show is from the column selector adding the element and type, so I can add that column in, and now I can see that I've got duct to wall clashes, and maybe let's get some more issues in there. So we've detected 11 clashes so far, and let's run another analysis for the pipe. Hopefully we'll have some more issues and stored here. Now we can see some issues, pipe and wall, conduit, so this is conduit and this is rectangular duct. We can click on these, and at the moment it's just highlighting the issues. So that could be useful, but we can't see much at the moment without actually understanding a bit more and peeling away some of the building maybe. So there are a few different methods that we can use to view this information. One of them is the automatic zoom. So if I select that, it will zoom to the area that is showing this clash between the duct and the wall. But still, this is probably not too easy to understand what's happening here. So we could choose to isolate. If we isolate, we see just the two elements that have the clash. Maybe we want to see it in respect with the whole building. So there's a translucency mode which highlights just those objects and then allows you to see everything else. But potentially if this was, and let me just build a situation where it would be slightly difficult to see what's clashing, what the problem is, we can use the translucency mode and then use what we call the auto reveal. And auto reveal, if I tick that, it peels away all the elements in front and shows us where that issue is in relation to the rest of the building. So if I now rotate this building, if I just turn it around, you'll see it will peel away everything. I like this view. It's really easy to start communicating what information you really need to in a very understandable way. So we can see where that clash is in its environment and start to analyze it in a bit more depth. So, and when we select each issue now, if we've got the commands ticked, then we can see that it will automatically go to these locations. And that's quite a nice one. So we can see this issue here with a duct coming through, and it's hitting this wall. And potentially, so this is on the roof, so maybe that's coming from a piece of equipment. So let's just go back and highlight mode. Yeah, so we can see this duct coming out. Maybe this is a piece of equipment that has a specific location for the outlet, which means that we probably have to have an extra bend in here or some form, which will add to the cost. Maybe we have to add a higher pad underneath, for example, to raise it over. Maybe we have to dart it over. But we can analyze what the effect is and which one is the best result on the cost. Now we've found an issue that we really do think is an issue. We start to promote these as constructability issues. At the moment, you see that there are 18 clashes that we have detected, and we have 6 constructability issues. The way that we promote it is just to right-click the line and say mark as constructability issue, and then you'll see that this dives down to 17, and we have an increase to 7 in the constructability issues tab. So what we're doing is promoting this this item, this problem that we found, and now able to add more detail to it in the constructability review. We go to auto zoom, and we can see where the item is. And then we can start to actually analyze the issue and mark up a view of that item. So we can add a viewpoint, and then we can start to add, for example, a cloud around this, so we can show where the issue is, and then, for example, add a freehand. This is where it is, point to it even. And people can understand it and save different viewpoints, and we can roll through those viewpoints. And these are the viewpoints that will then be reported in our report that I showed you before. So we could say this is a duct clash with parapet, maybe move, let's leave it like that, a duct clash with parapet, and then we can rate this as maybe a medium severity. Say that it's the MEP as the owner, and say that it's pending resolution, and maybe add a comment to say increase pad height, for example. And we can see when we click on each one where we're zooming and seeing all of the other issues, and we can track through. So this one here, we can see that we have a vent clashing with a steel brace, and we need to make sure that the architect changes something here. Maybe we can move the vent, but potentially it might affect something inside the building as well. So once we have this information, and we are pleased to say that we have caught constructability issues and we have rejected the detected clashes that aren't potentially clashes, then we can start to create reports on this information. So if we hit the Create Report button, this will open the report and the engine, and we can then go to edit a report in that engine. So we have a constructability report here, and if I right-click to edit that report, it will open up the report editor window. Pretty exceptional capabilities in here, the report designer. As you can see, this report has already been created with some various parameters, and the data is all driven. You see these little database symbols, cylinders, is showing where the information is coming from in the database. So for example, here in the viewpoints, we can see actually that this is a screenshot image with the annotation that we have captured. And this will list out all of the items in our report, even put a picture, I think, in this example. So this is the project image that we saw on the My Dashboard screen, will be put in this place. And we could do various things. We could put a nice chart in here, and the chart wizard comes up and tells us what would you like to see. Maybe it would be nice to have a 3D pie chart or something like that, showing all of the items and how they are distributed between all of the different systems. I'm not going to do that right now. Let me close that and show you an example. So I have a constructability report. So this was just run. It takes a couple of seconds just to run it, but you can see here the project name and the picture, and then all of the issues and the ones that I added with the constructability issues. As you can see here, vent clashing with steel brace. This was the item that I just saw in the software there. So this can be distributed to the project team if they need a copy that is not based on the project database.